There was an animated movie released a while ago that went completely under my radar, and when I found out about it, I didn't think too much of it and just threw it in the sea of my endless backlog of things I want to watch. So around Halloween, I not only decided to watch a bad movie, but give this one a shot because it looked spooky enough. I'm of course talking about Mad God. Coming from the mind of the legend Phil Tippett, who also worked on Starship Troopers, Star Wars, RoboCop, and many more. Him and his team bring us a passion project that took 30 years of patience, love, and care to make, which also reminds me of another animated film I love dearly called Redline that took 7 years to fully complete. Time to see if the wait was worth it. Spoilers ahead, so prepare your mind, body, and soul as we dive into the world of a mad, mad god. The main plot of Mad God is a very non-traditional one, and I would say it's the weakest part of the movie. It's structured in a way that feels like a 3-part OVA. What I mean by that is that the transition of perspective for the character we follow is a bit confusing. Tippett himself in an interview has mentioned that it's basically not really ruled by one narrative, and it was more like letting the work tell him what it needs to be. While I myself like this approach in a way and think it fits with the bizarre, chaotic nature of the film, it's something that I can see other people not really being into. The film starts with a visually striking shot of what looks like a reference to the Tower of Babel being covered by a cloud of darkness, along with probably the best song in the movie being played. I really love this opening because of the visual storytelling. What I got from it was the inhabitants of this world have done something to anger their god, so they are punished for it, just like the story it's referencing. It just really gets across the vibe of what the movie is gonna be all about. Endless suffering. After that, we follow a character simply known as the Assassin, whose design reminds me of the Courier from Fallout New Vegas. He descends into Detroit. No, California. Fuck. It's a literal hellscape. His mission is to Aloha snack bar and plant the bomb in his suitcase at the location on his map. I should mention there is no real dialogue in this movie, but there is Baby Babu speak. It's great. So we just follow the silent assassin as he just simply explores and observes the horrifying, harsh world around him, until he is eventually captured by this Resident Evil bioweapon looking monstrosity. When he does reach the point at where the bomb needed to be placed, once he is captured, the visuals transitioned into a blend of live action and stop motion. The assassin gets dissected by these doctors in a very graphic way that I don't even think I'm allowed to show on YouTube. I love how gory it is though. This is also where the character we follow switches, because they hook him up to a machine that showcases a completely different assassin going on his mission given to him by this long-nailed old guy. However, when we cut back to the doctors, the story continues on disconnected from what we saw. I should also mention that while they were dissecting the assassin, they pulled out of his body some imprisoned Ganon-looking baby creature. So the nurse gives this thing to one of the sickest looking plague doctor designs I've ever seen. And now would be a good time to mention that the movie has a lot of walking scenes in it, but the visuals are so cool looking I never was really bored when watching the movie. Lastly, the plague doctor reaches some alchemist lab with this ugly hunchback guy, who then grinds the baby into liquid then gold, which is used to create a new universe that goes through the same cycle over again, ending off with the assassin's bomb restarting and completing its circuit. Now, when I think of its plot in total is that the themes is what really connects it all together for me. That being what I assume is death, creation, and madness. Combine it to what is like an endless cycle of that. Where I got that idea from is the assassin himself is dispensable. There are plenty of other assassins being sent down to their deaths by the crazy long nails guy to repeat the cycle of risking their lives to set off a bomb during a war. Even those poor creatures earlier in the movie, who I'm just gonna call wage slaves, are similar to him because they too are dispensable and stuck in an endless cycle of constantly suffering while working endlessly to appease what I guess is their boss, or God, or mad God if you will. Okay, I'm sorry. And if Wagey doesn't get back to work, they get punished, or they'll just unalive themselves because they can't stand living anymore with all the inflation and not being able to afford a house. They own nothing and are clearly happy, I guess. Throughout the movie, there is also a war going on, and well, war never changes. To top that off, the movie ends with the universe going through the same cycle of self-destruction all over again. And the bomb symbolizes to me, well, a literal ticking time bomb. Or when the universe inevitably implodes once again, causing the never-ending cycle of suffering to repeat itself. Considering the absolute state of Western animation being mostly bad, with many movies having the same wannabe Pixar style, the art style and animation of Mad God is a breath of fresh rotted corpse air. Like, I just love traditional Western stop motion animation, with my personal favorite movie being the first one I watched when I was a kid, The Nightmare Before Christmas, purely because of its style, not so much its story. But there is just something about stop motion and handcrafted set designs that feels so much more real for animation, even if the things it's portraying are otherworldly. It's also something not used that often because of just how time consuming it is compared to 3D and 2D, but I still appreciate it. Mad God's animation is just solid from beginning to end. Even the live action actors they used move in a way that feels as though they are stop motion controlled. It really is just a nice movie to look at. Now, with the lack of dialogue, most of the audio focus is just on the sound of the world and the creatures that roam about in it. I like the sound of the assassin's clothes as he moves around. The sound of the creatures moving about.
Please pass the eggs, darling. Somebody help me!
It might sound cheesy to say, but it really makes me feel like I'm there, grounded in this world. While the audio is great, one of the things surprisingly lacking is the music. Besides the opening score and the song after that, the music is pretty bland. Not really bad, it's just there in the background. I felt the audio design of the movie was so strong it didn't really need background music past the opening, to be honest. So yeah, well, to end this video off, the positives of Mad God are definitely its animation, being some of the best I've seen in years for a Western animated movie. The visuals and sound design are top notch, but I guess the negatives would be its story, or the lack thereof. A plot that really strings everything together. It wants to be more of an experience rather than a traditional story. So that might turn off other people, even if it really doesn't for me. The music besides the opener is pretty underwhelming. I was expecting maybe something like some Silent Hill or metal tracks type of music based off of the art style. And last complaint for something that didn't really bother me but I can see annoying a lot of people is the pacing for certain scenes just dragging on. One that started to irk me was the plague doctor floating slowly while carrying the Gannon baby. That thing just kept crying for so long as if it was Kevin Smith after watching the recent Cape Shit movie. Overall, this movie is gonna stick with me to the grave. A film coming from a man who is a veteran that knows his stuff when it comes to stop motion. A pure passion project that took years of hard work and people dropping in and out to complete it. It's something you just don't really get to see that much of anymore, man. In the industry primarily focused on profitability over any real creative passion. Someone making a project like this purely off of love of the industry and the medium they worked in is just something I like to see. I would give it 8 suffering wages out of 10. Complete madness that could only come from a mad god. And with that said, I'll see you when I see you.